Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to go over the steps to purchasing a home. I know it can be stressful and not a lot of people are really educated in how that process works. And if you're a first-time home buyer, it can be a stressful endeavor. And if you don't have the right resources, you could get taken advantage of. So I kind of wanted to put this video together, go over the steps from my perspective. Now, I'm not a real estate professional or anything like that, but I have done it twice now. And from just doing some regular research on the internet, these are pretty much the typical steps that you'll see. And so here it goes. The first bucket of steps I'm calling preliminary steps. This is the stuff that you want to do before you really seek out a realtor or start getting loans or anything like that. Or sorry, start seeking out lenders. It can be pretty intuitive, and I think it's common sense, but in case it's not, here it is. The first one is really understand your finances, and this is a big step, right? Because you need to know what can you afford, what's your price range, because that's going to narrow down your search by quite a bit. So you need to look into it in terms of total cost. How much home do you want to buy? In terms of down payments, you need to look at your savings and see how much can you put down towards a home, because that'll dictate the kind of loan that you can get, the type of rates, and it will also factor into your monthly payment, which is the next thing you got to account for, is how much can you afford to pay per month for this home. So one thing to keep in mind with your monthly costs, you also have to factor in your escrow, so that's things like your taxes, insurance, and then on the side you also have your HOA if applicable. So once you get all that stuff accounted for, you can determine what you can afford and what you cannot. The next thing is, what do you really want? There's a lot of different types of real estate out there. You can get a house, a condo, a townhome, or if you're looking to invest, you can get a duplex, triplex, or a quadplex, for example. And a big one is going to be the size. If it's just you may not need a big home, but if you have a family with kids, then you need to look at maybe 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, depending on your situation. And then lastly, in this step, you have location. This is a big one. If you're, for example, in one of the coastal states like Florida, do you want to be on the beach? Do you want to, just have different sort of amenities? Do you want to be near grocery stores, restaurants, bars, etc.? It's a big thing to keep in mind. The other thing is schools. If you have little kids, you want to consider what school districts will they be participating in, if you value their education, for example. And then also taxes. So different areas will have high tax rates. So if you're in places like California, be prepared to pay a lot of taxes. So that's something you got to keep in mind. Even within the state, different counties will have different rates. So for example, I'm in Ohio, but a county over, our tax rate's quite a bit higher. They also have better schools. But anyway, so once you have an idea of what you want in terms of houses, the next step or the next bucket is start searching for different options. Now, the first thing I would do here is look at your various lenders, because if you're serious about buying, and assuming you're not going to be paying in cash, you need to start looking at the different lending options as well as different lenders themselves. So personally, I usually just go to lendingtree.com, put in my information, and then just search different lenders that are available, as well as look at the rates at that time. And then once you do that, there's no order to this, right? You can also search for houses at the same time or before you do that. And for this, I just use Zillow, Redfin, or Realtor.com. Really, any of those websites, just kind of browse around and see what's out there to give you an idea of the area and the market that you're looking in. It's pretty fun, personally, just kind of see what's out there and look at pictures and see what you could potentially buy. So once you start doing your search and have an idea of the area that you're looking at, the next bucket here is assembling your team. This is a big step because these are the people that you'll be working with to finalize and actually get your home at the end of the day. So the first step is find a realtor. That could be by finding one through friends, family, or just through Zillow or one of these house searching apps or websites. So personally, pretty much all my realtors that I've found have been through Zillow, and I've had okay success. If you have an issue with a realtor, you can always just find a new one. The other one is work with 2 to 4 lenders. So if you use LendingTree, from the previous step, you can narrow it down to 2 to 4 and just start talking to them, see what their interest rates are like, see what their fees are going to be like, and from there you can narrow it down. But you never want to just work with one, because then you don't have really any bargaining power. You could do just 2, but the more you have, the more bargaining that you can do. It's kind of like buying a car, right? You want to check out multiple dealerships to see what the best rate that you can get is. After you've done those first two steps, you want to get pre-approved with at least one lender. Now this way you can look more favorable when you go to purchase a home or when you go to put an offer down. Because if you're a seller, you want to make sure that the buyer you're going with is actually capable of getting a loan. And that pre-approval piece gives that seller some peace of mind that you can actually qualify for a loan and actually get the money that you need to buy a home. Otherwise, they would be wasting time if they accept your offer and you can't get a loan at the end of the day. So eventually you want to actually get a home and purchase one. So that leads us to the next step once you have your team, and that is choosing the actual home that you want to purchase. So the first step in that is narrowing down your search to maybe a couple of properties. With this step, make sure you watch out for realtor greed. Now, the realtor really is supposed to be your advocate. They're supposed to show you what you need or what you want based off of what you tell them. But at the end of the day, their paycheck is going to be a percentage or a commission of what you buy. So the more expensive of a home that you purchase, the bigger of a commission check that they're going to get. So, for example, on this most recent home search that I was doing, the realtor I was working with initially was only showing me properties that were $25,000 higher than what I told her my budget was. So clearly she really didn't care or listen to my values or the stuff that I cared about in a home or stick to my budget. So pretty much found a new realtor, but just watch out for this piece here and understand that at the end of the day, even though they're supposed to be your advocates, you gotta look out for yourself sometimes and understand what do you personally want and need. Next one is visit the home. So, if you've been browsing on Zillow or whatever website or looking at the MLS, if your realtor set you up with that, narrow it down to a couple options that you really like and fit within your price range, and just, favorite them and start working with your realtor to set up some appointments to go see the actual homes. And if you find one that you really like, then you can go ahead and make an offer. And with any big purchases, you can always negotiate. So whether that's from the price of the home itself or some seller concessions towards closing, there's a lot of stuff that you can negotiate. So once you're comfortable with the price range, go ahead and make an offer. Now, keep in mind right now we're in a seller's market, so your negotiating buffer may be very slim or none at all. But in my case, for example, I offered asking price on my most recent contract, but I'm getting about $7,000 in closing. So it's better than getting nothing. And just understand that you may not have much negotiation room, especially right now at the time of filming this when we're in a seller's market, and the housing market right now is pretty crazy. Now that you found a home and hopefully put in an offer that the seller accepted, the next big step is actually making the purchase. So this is probably the least fun step of the entire home buying process, but also one of the most important processes, because this is how you're able to get the home and actually purchase it. So the first thing you need to do is, at this point, pick a lender. So hopefully you've narrowed it down to one that you like, or maybe has the lowest fees, whatever it is. But at this point, you should have one lender that you're working with. And one big thing to note here is you want to make sure you don't make any large purchases after this point once you've been pre-approved. Because once they send your loan package over to underwriting, they're going to review your accounts, and if there are significant changes, you're going to be viewed as a risky buyer. So if all of a sudden you're spending $2,000 on a big trip, or if all of a sudden you start getting new credit cards or car loans or whatever, it's really going to delay your loan process, or even be the reason that you get rejected for the loan, and then you won't be able to get that home. Once you pick the lender, the next thing is actually wiring and paying that earnest deposit. Now, this is essentially a good faith deposit to the seller. It will go typically to the title company where they hold it in there for you. But it's essentially a deposit to ensure that you're not going to walk away from the deal, so that the seller has some sort of peace of mind, because at that point, the longer their home is on the market, the more they're paying in terms of amount of time, as well as their mortgage payments. So if you decide to make an offer and then walk away later, they will get your deposit. The next thing is getting a home inspection and appraisal. Typically, you can work with your realtor or just find a local inspector to check out the home. And this is a pretty important step, because you want to make sure that the home that you're buying is pretty good. You don't want to walk in and find out that the roof, is damaged and needs replacement. So this is kind of the step that the inspector will be able to tell you. The other thing is the appraisal. This is something that typically your lender will order for you, but you'll have to pay for it. And this is to make sure that you're paying a fair value for the home that you're buying. You don't want to pay $300,000 for a home that's worth $200,000. Now, this is mainly for the lender to cover their back because in the case that you default, for example, they don't want to get back a $200,000 asset when they give you a $300,000 loan. Another big thing here that I forgot to include is make sure you start getting home insurance quotes. This is pretty important because you're not going to close on your home unless you have home insurance. So make sure you also do that within that process and start working with your lender and send them the they call it declaration package once you've picked a home insurance company. So after that, you want to ask for any repairs or credits if necessary. So I haven't had to deal with that yet, but let's say, for example, you find out that the roof has $10,000 worth of damage. Well, you can ask for the seller to, either reduce your purchase price by $10,000, or they can give you a credit to be able to offset those repairs that are needed. And the inspector will be able to kind of tell you what issues they find with the home. And then lastly, after you've done all this, is the final walkthrough. So assuming everything is good and you have the green light to proceed, you want to walk one final time around the home, make sure that it hasn't changed since you last saw it. You don't want to buy a tenant-occupied home and then have them trash it right before they leave. So this is pretty critical. But then the last piece, which is a really fun one, is actually closing. So that's going to the title company or wherever you go, paying that final closing costs, which includes your down payment, and then getting the keys and moving into your home. And then after that, you're officially a homeowner, and you're probably stuck with payments for 30 years. So it's pretty exciting. This whole thing is a lengthy process, but honestly, it can be fun and pretty exciting. And I think real estate's a really important part of everybody's investment portfolio. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you found this video insightful and helpful. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any questions, leave them below and I'll try to get back to them as well.